Good day, or I should say good evening. I'm going to try doing one in the evening, and it's August 13th, 2018. And I want to talk to you further on the subject of debt, more precisely the dollar debt. I'm going to approach this subject a little bit deeper than I've really heard anybody really get into, and that is, since the dollar, which is supposed to be a petrodollar, which really isn't, if you really study the thing, the dollars, the Federal Reserve creates the dollars out of thin air, basically. They only have to pay for the printing of the dollars, and most of the dollars are never even printed. They're just paper, that the banks make up. Now, theoretically, this is supposed to be covered by bonds being sold, and they were at one time, and half a dozen years or more ago, China, who was buying most of them, started buying less and less, and Saudi Arabia buys some, and anyway, the bonds are not, the full amount of bonds are not being sold. So a few years back, the Federal Reserve, or some bureaucracy, was buying our own bonds, or the United States corporations own bonds, which is kind of ludicrous, really, if you understand it. So what we have now is dollars that don't exist, but yet we're playing and buying and trading in debt dollars, debt certificates. And since the United States is the only country, the United States corporation, I shouldn't say country, is the only entity to totally print up their own dollars without really any backing. This makes us the big king of the mountain. And of course, whenever some country like Libya with Gaddafi gets off to trying to back their currency, and especially a currency that would lead Africa, backing it by gold, and not accepting the U.S. dollar and as the only trading dollar in the world, totally trading dollar in the world, they get bumped off. Saddam Hussein, same story. They were stopping accepting selling oil for U.S. dollars. So anyway, so if you've got somebody on a planet that is creating dollars out of thin air and forcing everybody to use that dollar, which is basically what the U.S. military does to the rest of the world, if they don't agree with what's going on, the U.S. incorporation with the military backing goes to war against them. China and Russia kind of, it's not as easy to go to war against them, so they kind of play ping pong back and forth, and or chess, however you want to call it, which Putin's very good at. You've got a little bit of interference there, but it's just gamesmanship, probably. So you have a petrodollar that can be created out of thin air, and everybody's got to trade with that. And the U.S.Inc, the corporation, can print up as much as they want to, or create in the bank figures on the books. You've basically got an entity that is controlling the commerce, the work of the entire world, eventually. That's why the U.S. has to keep letting people into this country to get a new pool so that they can continue to increase their debt. Because something like this, a system that can print up its own money, has to keep expanding, or else it implodes. So it's going out into the world and having the world continually join in to this fake monetary policy, debt policy. So if you want to apply a little bit of science fiction fun to this, or just intellectually look at down the road, this thing keeps getting bigger and bigger, snowball running downhill, and the debt just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And the science fiction fanatics would say, well, that's why we have to go into space, to conquer more, so we can support this increasing debt. And so it's like the ultimate zombie apocalypse. We're a monster that needs to be continually fed. What was that little movie, The Shop of Horrors, where the plant keeps growing and growing and growing and wanting to be fed more and more and more? That's kind of like what the United States Incorporation is. I just get a little off subject, but not really. I just watched a rerun of the movie, or the second version of the movie, The Day That Earth Stood Still, the Keanu Reeves movie, and where all those little black bugs were dividing and were being sent out and were consuming the world, or at least everything man had built. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Dr. Judy Wood's theory on what happened to the Twin Towers on 9/11. They were dustified. I think the writers and producers of that second version of The Day the Earth Stood Still made some pretty good points in that movie. The Secretary of State was basically acting like the president, even though they showed one scene towards the end where she was actually talking to him on the phone, but kind of reminded me of a character portrayed being Hillary Clinton. Not answerable to anybody, really. It's a little bit off the subject there, but there was a part in the movie towards the end where the girl was trying to convince the Keanu Reeves character just to give the earth, the people, not the earth, because he was there to save the earth, not the people, because the people were destroying the earth. She says, well, just give us a chance. And he looks at her, and of course there's where I said out loud, he should have said, well, how many chances do you want? How many chances do you need? You take that and apply it to what's really happening in this world. It's a little bit the same. How far do we push this debt creation monster that's consuming all? I know it's consumed me. I'm wearing my video shirt here, which is a holy shirt, actually. It's see, it's got a hole there in the sleeve and a hole above the pocket here. Yeah, it's getting my last use out of this shirt. I can't throw anything away until I've gotten every little value out of it. And I'll only be in this house a little bit longer. That friends are letting me take care of for a bit. And so I won't have this beautiful artwork back here. Hope you really learned something from this video, and I hope I was able to get that across about just questioning and imagining and wondering how a system can continue with no backing. Continue to increase debt, which incidentally is not really a debt to the people like they're saying it, at least the people that don't incorporate themselves, which is very difficult today, because if you got a social security number and a driver's license, you got your number mark of the beast anyway. Of course, that's another subject. To keep ahead of the game is one of the reasons they're continuing to build bigger and bigger computers. Just read a short article on the one that China was bragging about a couple years ago has been surpassed by a new one here in this country. That's 8 times faster than the old one. It's not the size of the computer that's crucial, it's the speed. And even the content, the size of it is not too important, because as long as it's hooked up to all the other computers, the size is quite substantial. So it's the speed, the processing, because if you've got even a computer that's processing a complicated matter 5 seconds faster than another one, that's a big deal when it comes to running the system. So they've got all the information on all of us, all our actions, movements, all our money transactions, with the exception of the black state, and even some of that's on the records of the triangles, some of the former stuff that used to be at Area 51. That's black. So it's off most sheets. And then you've got, of course, the original UFOs. And those forefathers, they've never been on the books, and that's why officially UFOs don't exist. Maybe someday I'll make a video exclusively on that. But that all fits into it, because that's the challenge, or it was back in the 60s, it was the threat that was brought about that that the U.S. Incorporated was told to they were going to have to balance their books or separate themselves from the system. And of course, that's old history now. And the whole program was scaled back in the 1990s. And is practically, as in the Keanu Reeves movie, I think our forefathers just gave up on us, and they're just going to let us go to hell. Thank you. I hope you really learned something in depth in this about the monster created with the U.S. dollar debt certificate. Thank you.